Wow. That was slightly overwhelming, and still is. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Can I just start by saying how amazing is Sarah Coughlin? And can I also say how amazing is Tali Amanov, who gave the wonderful introduction. Friends, 3 years ago, minus 5 weeks, our brows fell. But I think it's fair to say I see a renewed sense of hope in our eyes today. And I remember when we started on this journey to build a blue army together, and I remember I said, do you think anybody will wear a blue t-shirt? And 3 people in a room of about 200 put their hands up. You have answered the call, so thank you. To our FEC committee led by our chair, Marie Kidd, our campaign committee led by Ed Davis and Rob Sayer, our regional champions, Jennifer, Rob, Judith, Richard and John, our door-knocking champions, Fraser, our phone canvassers, sign installers, and I might clarify also our sign cleaners, our letterboxes, our army of volunteers, to our wonderful support across the entire electorate and beyond. Can I say particularly, Jacqueline, thank you so much for that wonderful endorsement video. But also, because I haven't actually had the chance to see you, congratulations on becoming Bayside Citizen of the Year. And also for your service to our nation. To Danny from Golden Clippers, anyone who needs a haircut, go to Golden Clippers in Hampton Street. To Faye, who's an incredible working to support people with a disability. And of course, to all of the donors who support us as well, who often go unrecognised. The reality is, we don't get cheques for $600,000 sent to us from Sydney. We actually have to raise it from people in the community to fund a campaign so we can represent the community in Canberra. And there are many people after the last election that I turned to and said, I'm prepared to give 3 years over, not take a job, so that we can be in a position where we can retake Goldstein, but I need your help now and I need you to commit now. And to their enormous credit, they all said, okay, we will. And we are now in the position, I believe, to go on and do what we need to do for this country. So thank you. And today, of course, we're putting on a wonderful show for our special guests, my good friend, our patron, and of course the Shadow Minister for Finance, Jane Hume. There you are, Janie. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Jane says she's Armidale, but her secret is she grew up in Sandy. Kirkwood Street, in fact, wasn't it? Norwood. To our state MPs, James Newbury, Brad Ralswell, and of course David Southwick, David Davis and Georgie Crozier. But more importantly, we have future members of Parliament here as well. Harmeck Singh Mathru, who's the candidate for Hotham, and of course Kyle Hoppert from our Senate team. And someone I haven't seen for a while, but I'm looking forward to seeing after, is our former High Commissioner to London and former leader in the Senate, former Senator George Brandis. I know I'll get in trouble if I don't mention her, so I'll acknowledge, of course, my mother. Where are you, Mum? There you go. But to the most important person in my life, which of course is my secret weapon, the person who supports me through thick and thin, and you know where you are at any given time because of when you've experienced the unfortunate moments that come sometimes with loss in life, and you turn around and see who's standing behind you, and he's always there, no matter how difficult the situation. To my wonderful husband, Ryan. Friends, 9 years ago, I stood in front of many of you for the first time as your pre-selected Liberal candidate. And at that election, we won the best result in the seat's history. So 6 years on, it was a slightly different story. Today, we are reaffirming and recommitting and living out and demonstrating that we meant the words that were uttered then. That Goldstein was not a gift to be inherited nor a seat to be warmed. It is a trust to be earned every day in service. Service isn't all highs. It is a sacrifice for a greater purpose. And this is the most important election in living memory. What brings us together is we will not accept Australia's current trajectory. There is no war nor pandemic, yet we are borrowing from the future to feed today. Government spending is at record levels. They hide debt as off-the-book expenditure, but it still must be repaid. And we are living a simple truth. If you cannot be prudent, then debt will define your decisions. We're certainly living that in Victoria right now. Debt markets get serviced before patients in hospitals, contracts to upgrade public schools and criminal justice for those that break the law. Bond markets will come before women's change rooms at Trevor Barker or McKinnon Reserve, Brighton Beach or Peterson Reserve. Even Keynes would be horrified. Jobs growth is now limited to those servicing government programs. Energy prices continue to rise, and it is literally hollowing out what is left of our value-added economy. Sovereign risk is now a reality. Workers and investors are saying the last mile just simply isn't worth it. Lest people think it's all about dollars, it isn't. When families buckle under the pressure of household budgets, their emotional bonds break too. We have identity politics and imported conflicts that are turning us against each other. And we are living social corrosion through crime in our homes and on our streets. And it is a time when we need to be united because anchors of certainty have loosened and bedrock loyalties are now alliances of convenience. We are now a nation charting unknown waters, navigating the ripples from stones thrown into the pond of international affairs. Yet our political opponents want weakness. They crave instability because it empowers them. They want to position themselves as horse traders to cynically appeal to voter self-interest, not our shared interest. We need strength from unity to confront the challenges ahead. We are here because we know what is at stake, what happens if we fail, and the urgency of our success. We must steer through seas to safe harbours. We need leadership. It is time with those with courage in their hearts to step forth and command responsibility like never before. To do what is right and worry about the politics second. Because the greatest fear of a politician, frankly, is loss. Well, I am liberated of that fear. We must be fearless because the future of our country is on the line right now. There is a better way, but people need to hear it. There's no value in subtlety. There's no strength in timidity. The only thing that will save it is an alternative liberal vision that projects hope, aspiration, and opportunity in our words and, more importantly, in our deeds, and actually calls people to give something beyond themselves. Our vision starts with empowering families, communities, and small business as the foundation of our national success. That together they nurture and nourish our shared sense of civic responsibility and mutual support, and sew the first stitch in our social fabric. That our national unity must be our default over the identity that divides, because it is the only thing that ties our individual success to our shared national success. But that requires government to work for people and know its limits and also pull in its belt. And we need to build an energy system that suits our country's needs, not that suits simply the needs of big capital. Yes, renewables. Yes, gas. But yes, nuclear too. Some people wonder whether we're going to run away from this conversation. I can assure you I will not, because it is not an end. Nuclear is the beginning of the conversation to re-industrialise Australia and attract the investment so we can create the well-paid jobs that mean young Australians can support themselves. They can go on and buy a home and live the promise that this nation can provide a better future for generations yet to come. To build competitive industry, to meet the rapidly changing national security, renationalisation and sovereign supply chains we need. It means we can pay for the services Australians need and not burden all the cost onto workers and live out the meaning of the literal word, a commonwealth. Our vision is worth fighting for. Our community is worth fighting for. And so is Australia's future. But what we must bring with it is a sense of urgency. Too often we are told we can't build something because we have to indulge those who never wanted it in the first place. As David Southwick reminded me only the other day, the Victorian Parliament building was built in a single year. Today, you wouldn't even get the first stage of the consultation completed to test whether you could extract the bluestone. Of course, we should protect the environment. That is not in dispute. But we cannot allow ourselves to be completely locked up by red tape. We count it as money, we count it as cost, but it's also opportunity, it's stagnation, and it's time. Stagnation means drifting backward and handing our children a lesser future. I will not accept this future, but to change course, we are going to have to fight for it. Because for 3 years, our community and Australia has gone backwards. And it starts by winning back Goldstein. Because our community has lived the consequences of the Teal's broken promises. Let's benchmark them, not by my standard, but by their own. Community. Well, they called residents to find their voice, only to block them when they told them something they didn't want to hear, and many of the people in the room. She said she'd get a better deal because we were being ignored, yet literally watched Labor rip $100 million of infrastructure out of our community. Another test, equality. Again, simple metrics. Our community is overdue these important upgrades to sporting facilities so women can play in them. But since the last election, there has been no change. The funding announcements I am announcing now are precisely the same ones we committed to at the last election. Trevor Barker, Brighton Beach Oval, and there will be more to come. Climate. Well, she promised to scrap fossil fuel subsidies before scrubbing her promise from her website after she then went on to vote for $2 billion of new ones. She promised she'd cut emissions. They rose. But probably the most important one is that relationship between a Member of Parliament and the community. Trust and integrity. Well, doesn't that start with telling the truth? Like saying one thing before an election and honouring it after. Like promising you won't kickstart a debate on increasing income tax, but then you did. Promising you wouldn't advocate to increase the GST, then you did. But the real symbol for so many people in this electorate has been, over 3 Teal years, has been an empty chair. The empty chair at Australia Day citizenship ceremonies, literally, it's a public holiday. Anzac services, and to the Bailey House Christmas concert. One of the most common things we hear is they were everywhere before the last election, but we've heard nothing since. Of course, until now. But it is nowhere near as common as we contacted them and never got a reply. Or even more succinctly, they've delivered nothing. Nothing in Canberra, nothing in our community. Last Saturday, one resident said to me, of our local MP, it's like the person in your group assignment who did none of the work but still takes the credit and gets the mark. Both Labor and the Teals have failed this community. They have failed Goldstein, they have failed us. And it hasn't been without cost. 3 years ago, families felt confident and safe about their future. Now streets are hiring private security to stop violent home invasions, with machetes to stop car thefts. Statistics show we now have the highest rate of youth crime in our state's history. Something is wrong. Now, federally, we cannot stop it alone, but we can stop the availability of large knives to dangerous criminals so we don't wake up to images of a machete-wielding home invader in Black Rock on the front page of the Herald Sun. And we can introduce takedown powers so teenagers cannot boast about their thrills of car thefts on social media. We can show the absent leadership of our disinterested Prime Minister because he does not want to criticise his Labor mates. Leadership, real leadership, moral leadership is what this country needs right now. And there is no clearer example than to stop the scourge of anti-Semitism. Three years ago, Jewish Australians were respected as over-contributors to our national life, as they are. And now so many feel marginalised. From the steps of the Sydney Opera House to the lawns of Caulfield South Princess Park, in the past 2 years, what was dormant has been completely invigorated and emboldened. And the best we have seen from our Prime Minister has been a belated disinterest, and our local MP tweeting messages of kumbaya. Peter Dutton is committed to confronting it head on, and so am I. But do not misunderstand, this is not a fight just for Jewish Australians. This is our fight together. It is a fight for our unity, and it is a fight for the type of country we want to be, where everybody has a place at the table of the nation. So too are our economic challenges, a fight, and an urgent one at that. 3 years ago, we had the highest household savings rate in our nation's history. Now people are struggling to pay their mortgage and even go to the supermarket without having to put things back on the shelf. To keep downward pressure on inflation requires government to live within its means. Fiscal prudence may not be sexy, but it is necessary, because today's debt is also today's inflation and tomorrow's taxes. And that starts with acknowledging when you're in a hole, stop digging. And I'll go further. And when you're about to start the biggest debt hole in our state's history, it's better not to start. That's why I will oppose every single Commonwealth dollar going to the suburban rail loop. No one is arguing the importance of public transport infrastructure, but we must be realistic. And of course, it has become a proxy for lots of other agendas apart from actually having public transport. During a recent factory visit in Braeside, workers asked how someone could be paid double their wage from their taxes to turn a stop slow sign on a state government project run by the CFMEU. But what we know is these projects have become nakedly clear a facilitation process for corruption. They know things are out of whack and they yearn for politicians to be up front. Because Australians have lived a tough 5 years. 12 mortgage increases, rising energy bills, and they've watched their savings disappear. They don't understand why they can't afford gas, yet we lock it away under our feet. Because they're living the reality of cost of living. And it's not just whether you can afford things at the till or on your energy bill, It's whether you're working harder and even if you're getting ahead when you're doing so. Government cannot simply address the symptoms. We need to start actually addressing the causes. And if we want delivery, we need to elect people who don't discover economic reform in their polling. We need people who believe in it. Instead, we have a government that is now coming after assets before you've even sold them to fix their revenue problems. We heard these stories at the Bentley Festival only a few weeks ago. In between the selfies and the handshakes were small business owners who said it didn't matter how hard they work, no longer could they turn a profit. We see it, of course, in the insolvency data. But what humbled me was the number of people who physically, and I mean physically, came up and held me with both their hands and spoke through their eyes that our victory was now their literal anchor of hope in their life. And it is hope we must fight for. And there is no more important hope than young Australians and their aspiration to own their own home. 3 years ago, we had a government that understood home ownership was a central pillar of public policy. Now we have a government that printed 1.2 million times their commitment to build new homes, but has delivered none. If Australia has a national story, it is with hard work, sacrifice and savings. Everybody should be able to own a share of this nation. Yet young Australians increasingly believe it is beyond them, and instead of saving for tomorrow, they are living for today. It's also why we believe in housing that should meet people's life cycles and foster community, not simply impose 20-storey towers onto suburbs to help bureaucrats tick boxes. That's why we are committed to slowing migration, pausing foreign ownership and ensuring Australians can access their full savings so they can buy earlier, cheaper and minimise the years they're paying rent. Because the Greens may want you to rent from the government, Labor may want you to rent from your super fund, only we fundamentally believe that every Australian should aspire to own their own home. It is core to our vision for this nation. And in politics, you reveal what you stand for by who you fight for. And we will fight for young Australians to own their own home. Friends, in these coming weeks, we will all be tested. On the day after the election last, I did a press conference at Greenpoint. The words from Macbeth weighed heavily in my mind that day, that nothing in his life became him like believing it. You cannot rebuild until you have put the past to bed. And as Menzies himself learned, sometimes loss is the catalyst for your learning and the platform for your rising. We have seen the polls. They're encouraging. But let me make it clear, we are not home. The election is very much yet to be decided and it will absolutely be close. But I am very confident that together we are going to win, and it is because of you. You. And you. Each team only has one candidate. Who gets over the line will come down to how many people are prepared to fight as a team. It will come down to the team that takes the one extra shift on early voting, that one additional hour to stuff one more letterbox or knock on one more door. So thank you for everything you have done, thank you for everything you are doing, and thank you for everything that is yet to come. We are not here merely to go one more round or chance one more hand, hoping for the best. Every election is a choice. Our unity is on the ballot, our safety is on the ballot, our national success is absolutely on the ballot. We can build a better nation where every Australian tilts their eyes one angle higher and a farther to the horizon. But we are going to have to fight for it. What we do now, between now and polling day, will reverberate from Beaumaris to Bentley to Brighton to the shores of Lake Burley Griffin. Because this is our fight. Goldstein is ground zero and it is now. Appropriating Churchill's words, history will be kind to us because we will write it. Australia is looking to us. Australia is counting on us. Together, let us show Australia what happens when Goldstein projects its true strength. Because when Goldstein's values shape the nation, we are a better Australia. Let us be the hope and the change that Goldstein and Australia needs us to be. Thank you.
I can't think of anybody better to represent us, Tim. There is no one better.